You were trained to be a fool, not in school, not by books, but by the environment itself, by the smiles that hid calculations, by the applause that punished truth, by a system that taught you if you're good, you'll be rewarded. That is the lie, and you swallowed it. They told you kindness is strength, that honesty builds trust, that vulnerability will attract love, that patience will bring power. And yet, look around. The kind are ignored, the honest are manipulated, the vulnerable are discarded, the patient are overrun. You were told to be transparent, and so you became predictable. You were told to be compassionate, and so you became controllable. You were told to speak from the heart, and so you handed them the map to your destruction. Understand this: what makes you lovable to society also makes you exploitable. You think people value truth. They don't. They value advantage. And your honesty, it's just information to be used against you. A fool believes he is respected for who he is. A strategist is respected for what he controls. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. In The Prince, he wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than to be loved." Why? Because fear anchors behavior. Love drifts. Love fades when the weather changes. Fear remains when the storms come. If you believe you must be liked, you have already lost control, because the one who needs love will always bend to preserve it. You've seen this play out. At work, the employee who always goes the extra mile gets praised until he's replaced by someone cheaper. His loyalty wasn't power. It was leverage used against him. In relationships, the man who gives endlessly, who opens up, who bleeds emotionally, is often the one discarded first. Why? Because when you give everything, you lose mystery. When you lose mystery, you lose power. In social groups, the one who speaks his mind is the one they isolate, not because he's wrong, but because he's uncontrollable. And yet, you still believe being real will earn you respect. No, being useful earns you tolerance. Being feared earns you space. A fool exposes his values. A strategist conceals them. Now ask yourself this: have you ever noticed how the most powerful people you know say the least? They don't justify, they don't explain, they don't apologize unless it serves a function. They're not warm, they're not cold, they're unclear. And that uncertainty creates tension. That tension commands attention. You, on the other hand, fill silence with confessions. You text back too fast, you explain your every move, you try to make everyone comfortable. That is not kindness. That is a survival instinct trained by fear, and they smell it. So what does the fool do? He tries harder, to please, to prove, to explain, to fix what others broke. He doesn't understand that by doing more, he becomes less, that every time he moves, he reveals his position. Every gesture, every emotion, every word a breadcrumb trail for those who prey on predictability. You are not being read. You are being scanned. Every time you speak freely, someone is adjusting their grip on your leash. This is not paranoia. This is observation. Look closer, it's everywhere. The quiet man in the meeting, who doesn't smile, gets more respect than the one cracking jokes. The woman who never says "I'm sorry" isn't perceived as rude, she's seen as dominant. The colleague who never volunteers for extra work is not punished. He's left alone. Why? Because those who show need are seen as servants, and those who show restraint are seen as masters. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty. He taught detachment. He didn't say destroy everyone. He said learn when to strike and when to stay hidden. You've done the opposite. You show your hand. You play openly. You hope they'll be kind because you are. But here's the truth. Kindness is not a currency. It is camouflage. The world is not made of good and bad people. It is made of strategists and fools. You choose what you become, but only if you unlearn what you were trained to believe. And that begins now. You must stop explaining, stop trying, stop leaking your intent. You must become unreadable, because when no one knows what drives you, no one can control you. And when no one can control you, you become the danger. They don't fear you because they can read you. They know when you're nervous. They know when you're desperate. They know when you're trying to impress. Every movement you make, every smile you give, every moment you hesitate reveals one thing: you are not in control. You walk into a room and immediately adjust your tone to match theirs. You nod along when you disagree. You volunteer information no one asked for because silence feels like suffocation. That is not self-expression. That is submission. And no one respects a man who submits before a command is given. You've been trained by the world to behave this way. Trained to appease, trained to smooth tension, trained to prioritize social acceptance over self-control. It started early. Every time you were praised for being nice, every time you were scolded for being rude, every time they rewarded obedience and punished silence. What they were really teaching you was this: be easy to handle or we'll withhold love. And so, like every other fool, you began to adapt, not for power, but for survival. You learned to be useful to others but never dangerous. You became intelligent but not strategic. You became kind but not respected. Because the man who is easy to decode is easy to discard. Machiavelli understood that true power lies in ambiguity, in the deliberate distortion of your own image, in controlling how others perceive you, not how they feel about you. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." And yet, here you are handing people the keys to your psyche for free. You tell her your fears on the second date. You tell your boss your weaknesses to be transparent. You tell your friends your dreams, not realizing they're already calculating their distance from your future. You think sharing is intimacy? It's not. It's ammunition. You are the only one playing fair, the only one believing the rule book is sacred, the only one unaware that the game has already started and you're the entertainment. Now look at those who truly hold power. They never panic. They never overshare. They never react. Why? Because they've built layers. And you've stripped yourself of every layer, hoping someone will appreciate your authenticity. They won't. They'll use it to step over you. You were trained to be predictable. That's why you're replaceable. Think about it. Why do people lose interest in you? Because you're too obvious. They know what you'll say. They know what you'll do. They know what you want before you even realize it yourself. Predictability kills attraction. It kills negotiation. It kills power. You were taught to be yourself. But if yourself is weak, transparent, and insecure, what value does that version of you have? You don't need to be yourself. You need to become formless, unpredictable, calculated. A chameleon doesn't change color because it's confused. It changes because it knows the art of survival. Likewise, you must learn to hide your motives, to speak when necessary, and remain silent when it serves you, to observe more than you reveal. Because in a world of fools who wear their hearts on their sleeves, the man who hides his intentions becomes untouchable. Machiavelli would say, "A prince must learn to deceive," not because deception is moral, but because it is effective. Do you know what's more terrifying than a loud threat? A calm man who says nothing, because the one who talks too much is trying to prove he has power. The one who sits still already has it. So what do? You start by withdrawing access. No more free emotion, no more open book behavior, no more explaining your every move. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them miscalculate. Because every miscalculation in your enemy is an advantage to you. And every truth you expose prematurely is a dagger you place in someone else's hand. From this point forward, you speak less. You move slower. You reveal nothing. And if they push, you don't push back. You let silence do the talking. Because silence, properly used, is the loudest threat of all. They'll feel it. They won't understand it. And that confusion is power. Power is not about what you say. It's about what you withhold. Most men speak because they need to be heard. You will speak only when necessary. That is the first difference between you and a fool. A fool confuses presence with performance. He thinks if he's not talking, he's not being seen. So he performs. Constantly, loudly, desperately. He wants to be included. He wants to be liked. He wants to be validated. But those who are truly respected, they are defined not by what they give, but by what they deny. They don't laugh at every joke. They don't respond to every message. They don't explain every absence. And people adjust around them. Why? Because the unreadable man is a psychological mirror. People project onto him. They wonder, what is he thinking? What is he planning? Why does he not care what I think? And that wondering turns into anxiety. That anxiety turns into control. And suddenly, the quiet one holds the frame without lifting a finger. This is psychological dominance. Not through intimidation, not through aggression, but through restraint. Machiavelli understood that in politics and court, perception was more powerful than action. It is not necessary to have all the virtues, but to appear to have them. The fool seeks to be good. The strategist seeks to appear as needed. That means if silence will make you look wise, you stay silent. If calmness will confuse the enemy, you remain calm. If unpredictability will create fear, you become unpredictable. It's not about truth, it's about utility. Now apply this to your life. In negotiations, if they know how badly you want it, you've already lost. But if you can walk away silently, you gain leverage. In relationships, if she knows you're emotionally dependent, your power dissolves. But if she can't read your emotional state, she adjusts hers. In social dynamics, if people know you seek approval, they'll never give it. But if you withdraw approval, you become the source they chase. This is why emotional detachment is the foundation of masculine power. The less you react, the more others have to guess. And every time someone has to guess, you control the game. Now ask yourself, why do they always come to you when you're distant? Why do they test your boundaries more when you give too much? Why do they respect you more when you seem like you don't care? Because control is not loud. It's structural. You shift the gravity of the room by doing less and watching more. And that terrifies them because you're no longer predictable. You're no longer weak. You're no longer safe. You've become a variable, a risk, a shadow they can't define. And that's exactly where you need to be. The man who is feared quietly is more powerful than the man who is loved loudly. Because love is fragile. It depends on mood, on time, on context. But fear, even the subtle kind, plants roots in behavior. It rewires how they speak to you. It makes them hesitate. It keeps them from crossing lines. And no fear does not mean violence. It means they sense you see more than you show. They sense you're not afraid to walk away. They sense that getting close to you requires work, not flattery. That's the paradox. They want you more. Because they know they can't have you completely. And in that desire, you rise. You must now become the architect of your own atmosphere. Every room you enter, you set the tone. You speak only when it builds tension. You act only when it shifts control. You reveal only what is necessary, never what is true. The fool is addicted to honesty. You will be addicted to precision. If honesty costs you power, you delay it. If vulnerability costs you respect, you remove it. If love costs you your identity, you destroy it. Because you don't exist to be understood. You exist to be calculated against and never solved. That is how you become untouchable. You think respect and fear are different. They're not. Respect without fear is politeness. Fear without respect is rebellion. But respect with fear, that's power. You've spent your life trying to be respected. By being nice. You held doors. You apologized too much. You downplayed your wins. You softened your voice to make others comfortable. And all it did was make them forget you. The man who is easy to be around is easy to walk past. And that's what they did. Because no one fears a man who needs to be liked. They may enjoy your presence. They may say nice things. They may even laugh at your jokes. But deep down, they know you're safe. And safe men are tools, not threats. A threat is not a criminal. A threat is a man who doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. And that's what you must become. Because when they can't control you, when they can't predict you, when they can't move you emotionally, they will respect you, whether they want to or not. Machiavelli wrote, "Men love at their convenience, but fear at yours." It's not love that holds power. It's the fear of losing your approval that changes behavior. Let that sink in. You've been taught to earn love. You've never been taught to withhold it strategically. But this is how true influence begins. Stop giving love to people who haven't earned it. Stop offering peace to those who don't fear your war. Stop being emotionally accessible to people who wouldn't protect your name in a room full of silence. They don't deserve it. And every time you give it, you burn your value in their eyes. You become a man they can access at will, a vending machine of comfort, a disposable supply of reassurance. That's not connection. That's erosion. So what do? You stop chasing alignment. You stop explaining your silence. You stop apologizing for your standards. Let them wonder if you're cold. Let them feel uncertain around you. Let them try to earn your clarity. Because the moment they try, you've shifted the gravity. The fool begs to be included. The strategist makes others prove they belong in his world. You are not here to win everyone over. You are here to filter, to observe who adjusts when you stop smiling, who gets nervous when you don't react, who doubles their effort when you pull away. This isn't manipulation. It's pattern recognition. Because people reveal their truth not when you're close, but when you withdraw. So withdraw from over-explaining, from unnecessary favors, from giving more than they've shown, and in that space, you will see clearly who respects your silence and who only loved your obedience. Here is the law. If they do not fear losing access to you, they will never value what you offer. Let that law guide your posture, your eye contact, your tone. You are not desperate. You are not eager. You are not easily impressed. You observe. You listen. You command without force. Because when your presence carries tension, when your stillness feels heavy, when your silence makes people explain themselves, you've become the frame. And the one who holds the frame doesn't chase. He chooses, he selects, he filters. Without emotion, without drama, without a single wasted word. This is not cruelty. This is sovereignty. And from this point forward, you never let them forget it. You've heard enough words. Now you must become the space between them. There is a moment when a man stops performing. He stops explaining. He stops needing. He sees the world not as a place to belong, but as a game to be controlled. That moment is now. The fool still hopes for validation. He still wants applause. He still wants love without price. But you no longer chase feelings. You chase leverage. Because when love becomes currency, you become the product. And Machiavelli warned you, the one who builds his power on the affection of the people is building on sand. People change. Loyalty is conditional. Kindness is forgotten. But fear echoes. It lingers long after you leave the room. So from this point forward, you do not reveal your thoughts. They must wonder. You do not react emotionally. They must adjust. You do not show need. They must earn your attention. And slowly, everything shifts. The ones who overlooked you begin to watch. The ones who spoke over you begin to pause. The ones who tested you begin to tread carefully, because they no longer know where they stand with you. And that confusion is control. You don't speak unless your words move pieces. You don't help unless the favor is remembered publicly. You don't invest unless the return is inevitable. That's not selfish. That's strategy. You've lived long enough playing the fool, the kind man who bends, the loyal man who waits, the transparent man who always forgives. Where did it get you? They didn't thank you. They used you. They left you. Because no one respects a man who gives himself away for free. So here is your final law. Your silence must now cost them. Your presence must now change them. Your absence must now haunt them. This is the new you. You move without permission. You exit without explanation. You watch without blinking. You are no longer a character in their play. You are the one writing the script. They will not see you coming because you won't announce yourself. They will not know your next move because you no longer broadcast your intent. You will become calm, but not passive, distant, but not weak, quiet, but not empty. You will be the man whose motives they can't predict, whose mood they can't control, whose mind they can't enter, and they will feel it. Every word you don't say, every emotion you don't show, every boundary you don't negotiate, they will feel the shift even if they can't explain it. And when they do, they will remember what fear disguised as respect truly feels like. That is power. Not the power of noise, not the power of fame, not the power of approval, but the power of presence, of calculation, of silence. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be loved. You only need to be feared with quiet respect.